Hi there. This week I wanted to talk with all of you about a topic that I'm sure you have dealt with at least once in your life, if not on a weekly basis. It's something that probably all of the clients I've worked with, it's come up at some point in our work together. And it's definitely something that I've dealt with as well. And it's the topic of procrastination. So procrastination is one of those things where I don't think it's really that bad of a thing if we do it sometimes. I think the bad thing is when we don't have the awareness about when it creeps up, why it creeps up, and we don't feel like we have a toolbox of things to confront it. So that's what I'm hoping to help you with today, is to gain some awareness about, maybe one of the ways that procrastination might come up for you, and also some strategies about how you can try to overcome those obstacles and help you to kind of get back towards moving forwards with whatever it is that you've been procrastinating on. So this idea comes from a book called The Now Habit, and it's a metaphor for procrastination. And I'd encourage you to maybe think about a time that you've noticed you've recently procrastinated, and see, as I'm telling this metaphor, can you see the relationship here? The idea here is really that for so many of us, procrastination comes from a place of being so intertwined with perfectionism. Because usually when we have a task to do, let's say that task is that we have to send an email to our boss. It could be as simple as having a board that's stretched out from one side of the room to the other. Your task by sending the email is you have to cross from one side of the board to the other side. It's basically like walking from one side of the room to the other. It's not that difficult. It might have some challenging things about it. It might be uncomfortable, but it's not impossible, and it's not that difficult. It's not a life or death scenario. But what happens is, very much when we're procrastinating on something, it's as though we have raised that board 100 feet. I don't know how many meters that is. That's very tall though, up into in between two skyscrapers. So now it's not crossing from one side of the room to the other. You are now need to cross from one skyscraper. You're standing at the window of the skyscraper and you need to cross to the other side. Pretty scary, huh? Right? I mean, are you going to be thinking about, I can do this, I feel very confident? Or are you going to be thinking about, oh my God, wow, there's, a lot of room to fall here, a lot of room to fail at this task of crossing from one side to the other? You're probably going to start thinking about, how's my boss going to react? Maybe I should write it this way, maybe I should write it that way. You might just be standing in a corner completely paralyzed, because all you can think about is all of the possibilities that there are to fall, all of the ways that there are to fail. And so that's often what happens when we procrastinate. We make the task so much more risky and challenging than it necessarily is, and we just get so focused on all of the ways that we can fail at the task. What happens with procrastination, though, you might notice yeah, but procrastination works for me. I get things done. I just get them done at the last minute. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because what happens here is that suddenly it's like a fire gets lit behind you in that building. Suddenly, maybe the clock is ticking down. You have 30 minutes until you have to leave the office that day. Or, you have a meeting with your boss in a couple of hours. It's now or never. You've got to send that email. Suddenly, the risk that's coming up and getting closer and closer to you is so much scarier than the risk of falling. All you can think about is that risk of something's coming to me. I've got to go. So you go across the board. You do it. You do the thing because, it's that time crunch thing. It's much riskier to just stay where you are at that point. You're not thinking about if you could fall or how you could fail. Another thing that could happen too is that maybe it's not a fire. Maybe you see in that building across the way that there's a little puppy stranded over there, or there's some children playing around and they're getting really close to the windows. And suddenly, maybe this task wasn't important for you, but suddenly you need to do it for somebody else. You need to help somebody else. So that can happen too as well. Maybe, we're not it's something that's maybe really important to us. And maybe, in this case of sending an email to your boss, it could be really important for your professional growth. But maybe the thing that's important to you is not your professional growth. It's just when you start thinking about, okay, if I don't do this, all the consequences that are going to be there for my family, if I don't kind of keep moving forward with my job. So suddenly, again, you're not looking at all the ways you could fail. You're just looking at what you could lose. And so you move. you move. So really the idea here, what I talk about with my clients, is the fact that, what if we have an alternate scenario here? What if it's not just, okay, the fire, the kids that are gonna fall out of the window, or me falling off the board? What if there's still the possibility, because, that what if this is a challenging task? It's raised up in the air, you feel nervous, you feel afraid. What if you do fall? What if that is the case? You do fall, you do fail, you do later think, I shouldn't have worded my email that way, or your boss responds with, whatever, depending on what the email is, with rejection, or with frustration, or, misunderstanding. Whatever it is, failure, falling off the board, that's absolutely possible. But what if instead of falling to your death, what if we had a net there? Right? What if we could create a net for you? And that net could look like something like, for instance, if you do fall, if you do get disappointing news, if you do feel, upset with how things went, or you do think, later, I could have done it in a better way. What if instead of beating yourself up, you were able to say, like, that's okay. I tried my best. I took a risk. I took a chance. It's okay. It's absolutely okay to fall. And not only that, what if you could also change your mindset to more of like a growth mindset, and remember that progress is all about making failure, like about failing once in a while. And that's the way that we learn, right? We're imperfect humans, and we're constantly growing and learning. We don't just stop like as soon as we graduate from university. We keep learning throughout our lives. And the only way to learn is sometimes to slip up and to fall. So I just wonder, I pose that question for you. How different do you think that your procrastination tendencies would be different if your inner dialogue was different as well? If you were able to know, like, I have a net to catch myself and to support myself and to help myself get back up and cross the board again, if and when I do fall. I know that this metaphor is really helpful for me to just notice some of my tendencies, and to also just really have a lot of self-compassion when those things do come up, and to be able to see, like, it's okay. It's okay, because the important thing here was taking one step in front of the other and crossing the board. That is really the most important thing. So I would love to hear what you think of this metaphor, if it helps you at all, if it starts to get those wheels turning about, maybe what you could do with your own procrastination tendencies. Leave me a comment, send me a message. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this metaphor. And, if you feel comfortable sharing, let me know too about what's it been like for you. Have you noticed that procrastination and perfectionism, how they're just really tied up? They're like cousins there, just they come together very often for so many of us. Looking forward to hearing from you. Take care. Bye.